come on. Maybe they go for a beer and catch up, or he'd just give them a cursory nod and slip on past as enigmatically as possible. Of course, that wasn't how things ever went in reality. In this reality especially, it was clear the timeline's dial had been knocked from pretty normal to perpetually ridiculous, which meant he should actually have been relieved his wintry return to Dark Peak was initially met with no more fanfare than the harsh December squall ripping around the town square and a swaying Christmas tree that was spooking the pigeons. In fact, as he stood there, back in the location where everything had changed, the site of the infamous 1989 Halloween gas leak that had left most Dark Peak residents seeing monsters and several people dead, he felt a strange sense of happy nostalgia warm his insides. Because after all this time, nothing had changed. Same old buildings, same old people. It was almost like stepping back into a cozy memory or returning to a treasured world in a sequel. Except the sequels were never quite as good, were they? "Oi, gasbuster!" A balding man in a bright yellow puffer jacket yelled across the gardens as his 3 screaming kids chased each other around the grass and muddy flower beds. Cisco shouldn't have turned at the name, but there's a sadistic instinct in humans that makes you do things when you know you really shouldn't, and he had already locked eyes with the man before he realized his mistake. The man grinned like a fisherman who'd just hooked his first idiot of the day. "Yeah, I knew it was you. The kid from the gas leak." Cisco swore under his breath and let the wind carry it away, as the man grabbed his eldest daughter and pointed as if Cisco was some kind of festive attraction. "Look, honey, that's the bloke from the bedtime stories your mum tells you. The gas leak boy. I told you he was real." The girl laughed joyously and waved to him. Grim-faced, Cisco waved back. A hand tugged at his jeans. "Who's that?" Cisco reached down and gently squeezed the mittened hand of his 8-year-old son. "I've no idea, George." The boy's flushed face, squashed in between his knitted beanie and the scarf around his neck, tilted up at him with a puzzled expression. "Then why are you waving to her?" "That's what you do when kids wave to you. It's the law." "There's a law about waving?" "Uh-huh. A parent's law." Why did he often find himself lying to his son to get out of answering a perfectly reasonable question? "I don't have the energy for the technicalities of a discussion that could spawn 1,000 more questions and last forever," came the well-worn reply from his brain. "When you become a parent, George, you absolutely have to wave when kids wave at you. I would expect the same if you did it to someone else." Of course, George instantly began waving to the man. Cisco thought he recognized him now. He fumbled in the closet of his mind where he'd shoved a lot of past trauma. Dean someone. Most likely Dean laughed again nastily and didn't bother waving back to George. "Okay, not everyone knows the law, I guess," Cisco said, gently putting the boy's hand down. George seemed to mull that over for a moment. "What did he mean by gasbuster? Shouldn't it be ghostbuster?" "It should have been," Cisco admitted, unable to help the regret seep into his voice. "But that's not what everyone ended up remembering." "Why?" "Oh, it's a long story." "But why?" Cisco sighed, not fancying that conversation right now. He looked around for a distraction. Distraction and lying. That was his parenting style. There was a little cafe on the north side of the square, its windows finely decorated with colourful festive scenes and golden angels and falling snow. A cozy, beckoning light shone through the steamy glass. The Peppino Deli sign above the door had been draped with colourful lights that were blinking on and off. "Need a wee?" Cisco asked, pulling George in that direction. His son resisted. "No, I'm okay." "How about a kick?" "Let's go faster," George said, leading the way. They headed up the uneven flagstones, trying not to slip on the wet brown leaves and fighting the sleet that was now beginning. Cisco could hear the name again. "Gasbuster!" carried through the squall, but couldn't tell if it was the man or his own brain gleefully playing tricks on him. The trouble wasn't so much the name, he reminded himself, following quickly after George, who was now suggesting that maybe he'd like a hot chocolate with his cake. Yes, living with a humiliating moniker had been annoying in the aftermath of that particular Halloween night, having it haunt him like a particularly irritating poltergeist. Hearing it in whispers behind him in class.